Welcome back to The Champion's Mind. Today we're diving into one of the hardest but most powerful shifts you can ever face, reinvention. For me, that moment came when I retired from basketball. One day I was living and breathing the game, training, competing, chasing championships. And then, just like that rhythm that had structured my entire life was gone. No practices, no film sessions, no season to prepare for. I had space for the first time in years, and with it, a completely blank slate. That blank slate was intimidating, even uncomfortable, but it also became the canvas where I could start building a new vision for myself. Not one limited to who I used to be, but focus on what I could create next. In this episode, I'll walk you through exactly how to do the same, how to honor what you're leaving behind, unlock your transferable strengths, experiment with new directions, and design a new identity that's aligned with who you are becoming. Leaving a sport or a long-term career isn't just a career change. It's like losing a part of yourself. And that grief is real. The first step in reinventing yourself is allowing yourself to truly feel the emotions tied to that loss. It's okay to feel sad, frustrated, or even scared. That old identity, the athlete, the champion, the title you held was a huge part of your life. Letting it go isn't easy. So a lot of people ask me now that I'm in this period of my life where I'm transitioning. And if you're not familiar, a lot of athletes who play professionally or have played sports their entire life, essentially when they leave the sport, a lot of them fall into depression. So I always get asked this question: how did I create a healthy environment to help me grieve and avoid falling into depression? One, as I started to feel like I was slowly moving away from my sport, wanting to explore different interests and just having that feeling, I actually played into it while I was an athlete. In the beginning, you're just really focused on being an athlete, being the best you can be, and giving everything you can to your sport that you forget about there's a life outside of sports. So the moment I felt like this pull towards something new, where I felt like, you know what, I would love to see what my life would look like without basketball or my sport, that's when I started to really lean into that emotion and that feeling and that curiosity. From there, I was able to kind of just, create this environment where I was still focused on basketball, but I was also exploring and researching other ways that I can live my life, based on my interest. So a lot of that looked like just preparing myself before I actually got to the end, knowing that if I did the work and if I did something where I felt like I had interest in and I could transition into smoothly, then I wouldn't be left with all of this time and space to just fall into depression and grieve my own identity and my former life as an athlete. So probably the first couple of weeks after Paris, I literally didn't think about anything, didn't think about my future, didn't think about the fact that I was retiring as a basketball player and that was my last game. Honestly, I just took a moment to be, and that's really important. I knew I was super tired. I was emotionally drained, physically drained. The Olympics is really draining in all of and being in it. And I knew that I needed just time to be able to recharge and get to myself again so I can make decisions and think clearly. So the first couple of weeks was really not about grieving the loss of an identity or even thinking about what was next. It was really just being in the moment, appreciating the fact that I had a lot more free time to do things I wanted, to connect with people I haven't been connecting with in years because I was sacrificing and putting my all into my sport. Really just doing the things that I never had the time to as an athlete, enjoying that, being grateful for it, and being super present in that moment. That allowed me to, one, build the foundation for what I could create for what was next for my life and creating a new identity for myself. So after I took the time to just be for a couple of weeks, I knew that the one thing that I needed and I had to create in order to have some type of function moving forward and being able to grieve my identity and the process of it all was a routine. And because as an athlete, your day is structured by your coaches and what you're supposed to do around practices and games, I never had the luxury of creating my own schedule. So the first thing I did was I learned how to create a routine for me that worked. And what it looked like was I knew I wanted to keep working out and staying fit. So I knew I had to put that into my routine. And just knowing myself, I knew that it had to be in the morning because I'm the type of person where I have the most energy in the morning. And if I know if I need to do stuff that's very important to me, it has to get done in the morning because that's when I had the most energy. So the first thing I did was I wrote down my entire schedule. wake up at 5 a.m., go work out. From there, have the time to either look for a job, research a career that I had interest in, or just reach out to people who I felt like had a career that I was interested in, but just wanted to know more about the day to day and what they did on a regular basis to see if I really did have interest in not just what it looked like, but the whole process and the day to day of what that responsibility was. After I did the most important things, working out, researching, then I knew that one thing that was also very important that I knew was going to be very impactful on my life was how I ate. So I was really keen on keeping a very healthy and clean diet. And I knew that I had to put that into my routine because before that was taken care of, I would walk into a dining room and the food was already made. And then I will have breakfast, the food was already made. So I didn't really have a routine of creating my meals because it was already done for me. So I made sure I had breakfast, I made sure I had lunch, and I made sure I had dinner. And I made sure I prepped that every Sunday. From there, I booked time to learn. One thing that's really important to me and I will always take is that I'm a lifelong learner and I have a growth mindset. So I knew that was important to me in terms of my values. So I really made time to be able to read the books that I never had time to, creating a list of all the books I wanted to read and putting it in my schedule to read for at least 30 to an hour of a book that I really wanted to dive into. And most of my books are more on self-development. So it was either a skill I wanted to develop professionally or a skill I wanted to develop personally. And being able to put that in my schedule allowed me to align my schedule with my values. After I put in time to read or do something where I'm learning or I'm doing personal development, the next thing was my social life. The biggest thing that took a hit when I was an athlete was my social life. Not being able to spend time with my family or friends and really nurture those relationships. I knew that now that I had all this time back and I was going to be in one place for longer than a year, that for me, that was super important in building and reestablishing because now I was in a place where I knew I was going to be there consistently. I had the time to do it. So I made sure I put that in my schedule to just have time with family, friends, and to really just create and redevelop those relationships. The last part of my routine that I implemented into my day-to-day was I knew that I'm the type of person who loves alone time. I'm an introvert at heart. So I knew I had to have alone time, whether that be just literally a time block where I'm doing nothing or nothing's planned, but I'm just being spontaneous and having that time to myself. I knew I had to get that in my schedule and I made it a point to make it a non-negotiable thing because growing up, I always had brothers and then I went to a team sport and I just felt like I needed the alone time in order to recharge and like connect with myself. And I miss having that as an athlete because I was always with the team or I was always on the road. So that was essential for me putting that into my routine. And it could look like something different for you. Everybody's different, but the one thing that you should do when you're making your routine is align it with what your goals are and your values are. So building a routine is super important, but also going to therapy, I did not mention in that routine, is something I did also. Within the first couple of months, I would have really good days and then some days were harder than others. And I was just not really clear about how I was feeling, what I was going through. So I decided to get back into therapy. And I did talk to my therapist about that journey and how I was feeling. And that actually gave me so much more clarity, being able to talk to somebody who's a professional that could help me label what I was feeling, gave me just more of an understanding of how I was feeling and that what I was going through was completely normal. But feeling the grief in a healthy way allows you to process the loss without getting stuck in it. It also creates space for self-reflection and growth, turning an ending into the start of a new chapter. Today, I want you guys to write down how you're going to create a healthy space for yourself to grieve your old identity. Then write one thing you can do with this time to improve or reflect on who you want to become next. So step number 2 is to identify transferable skills and get clear on your strengths. The skills that made you great in your sport or old career can make you unstoppable in your next chapter if you know how to use them. Athletes develop incredible skills: discipline, resilience, teamwork, focus under pressure, leadership, all of which are valuable in business, tech, or any new field. But beyond just listing skills, it's important to get clear on what you loved about your previous career or sport. Understanding what energized you and what gave you purpose will give you clues about what to pursue next. So A lot of people also ask me this question: what skills did I rely on in my last career or sport? And why did I love it? What parts of it lit me up and gave me energy? How can I carry those strengths into the next chapter? So, a lot of the skills that I had developed was really around my mindset. And I didn't know that initially. I think a lot of people who have natural talent don't see themselves, so they don't understand what those strengths are. To everybody else, it's a little bit obvious, but to yourself, if you're living in your own body, it's really hard to see. So one thing I did was I just started to listen more. People would like compliment me on how my mindset was, or how disciplined I was, or how consistent I was, or how courageous I was in starting new things and being able to execute them and like go all the way to the finish. So I knew that I was able to I knew I was able to just continue to use those skills, but instead of using them in basketball, I knew I can use them in a new career or business adventure. So for me, it was simply about writing those skills down so I can just see them. I knew I had the discipline. I knew I was consistent. I knew that if I had a clear vision for what I wanted moving forward, and I knew the steps that I needed to take, and that I made it as clear as possible, that I would take action no matter what. So I started there. Next, I had to look at, okay, why did I love playing basketball? And the reason why I love playing basketball, because in the most pressurized moments is when I was able to see who I really was and what my potential was. And I love that feeling. Being able to see how far I've come or how far I've grown in a really hard situation really gave me a clarity and confidence about who I was and who I was becoming. So once I started to just get a clear idea of what I loved about basketball and what my strengths were, I started to compare what that could lead to in terms of a career. So I did have a little bit of interest in business. I knew from just talking to people about like the skills I developed and the careers that it would easily translate to. I knew that it was going to be in sales. It was either going to be in finance. It was going to be in industries where I feel like performance is key. So I started really to dive into research about these specific careers and if I really wanted to pursue a career in any of them. I didn't have a clear idea initially, but I had a little bit of pique and interest in sales. So I decided to go the tech sales route, and I'm currently a sales rep at a tech company. So that's essentially what I did. And I knew that I probably wasn't going to get it right. I had talked to people who had retired before me, got a little bit of wisdom from them. And they were saying that a lot of the times your first choice is not going to be your last choice, and that maybe it takes a couple of tries before you really get to know the thing that you want to just commit to in terms of a career or a business before you get any clarity. And I was willing to fail at first, make a mistake. If tech sales wasn't for me, at least I tried and I knew, but it would give me feedback on what to do next and what I wanted for my future. So this was like super important to me because the clarity, honestly, around my strengths and passions helped me to make intentional decisions. It's just the focus from I lost this career to here's what I'm naturally good at and what energizes me and how can I use it next. So my challenge to you guys is to make a list of your top 5 strengths and 3 things you loved about your previous career or sport. Then write one way each strength could be applied to a new opportunity or field. So step number 3 is to explore new opportunities, try, fail, and pivot, and the 1-year rule. Reinvention doesn't happen by chance. It happens through exploration, trial, and a willingness to fail. Once you know your strengths and what you love, the next step is to experiment. Try new roles, projects, or industries that spark your curiosity. This is where most people get frustrated. Nothing feels perfect immediately. That's why I follow the 1-year rule. Give yourself at least a year to explore, fail, and pivot before deciding if something isn't for you. So after the Olympics, I went into this place where I gave myself time to relax, just chill, to recharge. And then from there, I was kind of just unsure of where to go next. So the way that I allowed myself to have no pressure and making a decision was I decided that I can try anything and I would give myself a year to try it. And from there, if I loved it, great, I would continue. But if I didn't, then I gave myself all the grace to move on and find something different and try it again. And if I failed again, that's okay. It's always just the process of failing and learning until I got to the point where I felt like something could stick. So initially for me, it was life coaching. I did that for a couple of years. I took a course and for the most part, I loved it. Like it was really rewarding and made me feel super fulfilled. And I loved the career, but I just didn't love the business side of it where I felt like I was being challenged. So I knew that I liked some part of it, of being a life coach, but I didn't love it completely. After that, I tried a cleaning business. So I had a cleaning business I did for 3 years during COVID, and it was really profitable. So on the business side, it was great. Like I could analyze, be able to use my logical mind, but I just didn't have a passion for it. So it gave me one side of what I liked, but it didn't give me the other. And I knew that I couldn't do it long term if I didn't have both the purpose and passion for it and also the challenge mentally. So now I'm in tech sales, and it's going to be almost a year now. And I'm loving the role, honestly. I love the fact that I'm able to use the mindset of being persistent, resilient, confident, consistent, disciplined, and having to do that day in and day out. It's really satisfying. But there's also a lot of things about the roles that I don't love. And I'm still in this almost year where I'm trying to figure out if it's for me or if it's something that I should move on from. But yeah, until then, I'm just taking that year to fail, to keep trying. And by the end of that year, I'll make a decision. And it's super important that you do this process and understand that it's going to be messy. It's not going to look perfect, and it's okay to fail. But as long as you're learning, getting more information about what you love and the things you love about certain roles, you'll be able to get a clear picture by the end of it all. So the 1 year rule removes pressure and gives you permission to fail, learn, and discover what aligns with your passions and strengths. It's about patience, curiosity, and persistence. So for anybody listening, I want you guys to commit to trying one new thing this month, a course, a project, or a networking opportunity, and give yourself the space to learn from it. Remember the 1 year rule. Explore before you judge whether it's right or not. So the final step is to build your new identity, unlearn so you can reinvent. Your new identity isn't just about leaving the past behind. It's about unlearning old habits, beliefs, and expectations, and intentionally reinventing yourself. It's great to have a competitive mindset. It's what got you here. But if you try to use that same intensity to rush the imperfect journey of growth and reinvention, it can actually stunt your progress. Let go of the need to quickly become the new version of yourself. It's easy to try to fill uncertainty with false certainty, to pretend you have it all figured out. Instead, let the journey be fluid. Be aware of your thoughts. Take notes. Reflect along the way. There's no rush to creating a new you. It's okay to feel uncomfortable in the unknowing of what's next and then asking yourself, who can I become? So that was super vital to me because I'm this person who, when most people look at me, or for the people who do know me, it seems like I have everything together and that I'm never bothered and that I always have my shit together. But for the first time in my career, I felt like I didn't. And that felt like weakness. Just not having the certainty of knowing I had a career in front of me that I could develop. To me, my belief around that was it was weakness to me. And for people who know me, they know that I always seem like I have it together. And at times people really do think like nothing ever bothers me. Nara always figures it out. Nara always has it together. But for the first time in my career, I felt like I didn't. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what I could become. I knew what I had, but kind of my future was kind of blurry. And I felt super uncertain in that. And although I walked as if I had everything together and I was confident for where I was going next, I was completely lost and didn't know what direction to take. So essentially, I had to unlearn the fact that it's okay not to know, and that even in the knowing doesn't make it like you're more confident in yourself, doesn't make it as if you're the person who has it all together. And it's okay not to be that person because you're human. And I had to unlearn that just because I didn't know doesn't mean I'm weak, or just because I did know doesn't mean that I had the strength. So in this new space of like not having certainty, not having clarity, I actually just had the courage to continue to take steps forward. Even though I didn't know what to do next, what it looked like, how my life would look like, I knew that if I was ever going to find some type of clarity, I just needed to take a step forward. And regardless if I felt like it was perfect or regardless if I felt like it was in the right direction, the courage to continuously show up, to take action, and to figure it out along the way was more important than having it all figured out and knowing exactly what to do next. And with that, I was able to unlearn some of my bad habits that I had as an athlete, of feeling like I always had to perform, I always had to look perfect, I always had to play perfect, and letting go of that belief and that habit I had created as an athlete allowed me to really just take the messy journey of reinventing myself. So a big thing that I had to learn that was part of my reinvention was learning how to talk to myself. I knew that taking a step forward was 90% likely going to result in failure because I just didn't know what was next, and I didn't know what step to take. And I just let myself be able to sit in that. Obviously, I was coming from a successful career, so I felt like success had been my norm. But being able to be introduced to failure and being able to sit in that discomfort and learning how to do that really allowed me to move forward and getting clarity. I'm still in this place where I'm getting that clarity, but essentially I'm allowing myself to fail and allowing myself to feel that discomfort, but not just feel it, learn from it, like take notes, like why did this not work? Like what worked about it? What did I love? Like all those things that I ask myself when I do encounter a failure allowed me to take all of that information, learn from it, grow from it, and then use that information to take the next move, which was going to put me closer to what I wanted in the future. So the biggest emotional shift for me in unlearning and then relearning was understanding that progress doesn't require speed. It only requires consistency and willingness to be open to growth and just the courage to do it. Unlearning and embracing uncertainty creates space for authentic reinvention. Growth isn't linear, and feeling uncomfortable is part of the process. Your new identity will emerge more fully when you allow the journey to unfold naturally. So my challenge to you guys is write down 2 to 3 old beliefs or habits you want to unlearn. Commit to leaning into discomfort this week and reflecting on the lessons that emerge. Let the journey be fluid and trust that your new identity is unfolding at the right pace. So just want to close out with reinvention is a journey and not an instant transformation. But with awareness, transferable skills, curiosity, patience, and intentional identity building, you can thrive in any chapter of your life. I want to hear from you guys. DM me, leave me a comment, and share how you're reinventing yourself. So remember, guys, as always, your mindset is your power. Use it. Peace.